Portland Trailblazers were on a 4-game winning streak, their longest since October of 2022. They sweep a 3-game Southeastern Conference road trip, including those Miami Heat, which that game was horrendous. Beat the Orlando Magic, which again, that game was horrendous. And then they went in Charlotte by 5 over a very, very, very bad Charlotte team. And I had a bunch of people asking, "What the hell is going on?" And I threw my hands up and went, I don't know what else you want them to do other than shut guys down, and they're not going to do that yet. And you can agree with that. You can disagree with that. I think most of you disagree with that, and I get it. I do. My eyebrow is certainly raising because they basically can only win 5 more games the rest of the season
if they want to get a top. What is it? 3 pick,
top 5
chance.
Because they're not getting a top 2 chance, and they're probably not getting a top 3 chance. And if you're angling for the pick, you're hoping for top 5 odds. Now you want the top 5 odds so that you can get the number 1 overall pick. Because when you start looking at where things are, it gets a little dicey. Now, what happened on this road trip? Well, they beat Miami because Miami is just asunder. They are a complete S show. And I think that's something that has kind of described the Blazers' wins this year. I'm not going to go through all of them because, my God, that'd be a terrible way to do this.
I don't know. I think you should go
Just
through
go through all the wins.
17. Please tell me.
Well, that's
why they won.
That's the really interesting thing. When you if you look at the game log and you look at the games that they have won, how many of their wins, and I'm not doing this to discredit them. This is a thing Joe Simons and I were kind of discussing the other night. I was like, how many wins do they have that are good wins? Because you take a look at their wins this season, and you've gotten 3 over the Pelicans, which when they were disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You got 2 over the Timberwolves when they have no idea what the bleep they're doing. And you beat the Kings when the Kings were in their death spiral before they fire Mike Brown. You have the good wins I see on this: the Atlanta Hawks, the Houston Rockets, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Mavericks when they were missing Luka.
So I wouldn't say that's a good win.
So let's look like, but other than that, the teams you have beat, the Nuggets. There you go, the Nuggets. So it's 4. 4 of their 17 wins aren't some either version of this team really sucks, their opponent, or something going on with the opponent.
Right.
Like you can say the win over the Heat, like the win over the Heat still counts. But would you say that the Heat are going through it right now?
Yeah, I would say that their focus is not on basketball games being won.
Okay, you had a win just recently over the Chicago Bulls. Is that a good team?
Nope.
You had a win again over the Charlotte Hornets, and basically what's a roster made of Exhibit 10 guys.
Yeah.
Now, the win over the Orlando Magic. I tweeted out the stat afterwards. Teams that have shot under 35% from the field and under 25% from 3 in the three-point era, which is from 1979 to 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Care to venture just a rough estimate of how many times that has happened? Because it's a lot since 1979, 1980.
Well, I would assume it's mostly in the 80s and 90s.
There's actually a lot of them recently, too.
Just because you have guys chucking it up and just one of those games where everyone's cold.
You know, it's just,
in
82 games, it happens.
A lot of big numbers.
1,236 times. 1,236 times that it happened. That has happened since 1979, 1980. Okay. That team has won 26 times.
And you got one of them?
And you got one of them. Well, no. They got one of, like, you didn't get the win.
Right,
because
you got the loss.
They beat the Magic. So like that's what I'm saying. That Magic team was so bad, there was no level the Blazers could get to lose that game.
Right.
And again, you look at the Blazers in that game, they scored 102 points. They weren't lighting the Nets on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they were very disruptive. They were very good. I was talking to a few people in the league yesterday. I was like, "Did you watch one of the scouts I was like, did you watch the Blazers play the Magic?" He was like, "Yeah." He goes, "What happened to Paolo?" It may have been Paolo Banchero's worst game of his career. It was 1 of 14 at 5 turnovers. Jabari Walker is apparently Paolo Banchero kryptonite. And then
stopper.
And then they barely beat a Charlotte Hornets team without LaMelo Ball, without Miles Bridges, without Brandon Miller, and they lose Caleb Martin after the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And they win by 5. I think they're doing the thing that they need to do to lose the games, but opponents aren't abiding.
Right.
Now, post All-Star break, we've talked about this endlessly. They will find a way to turn off the water. Organizationally, what I've been told is that, look, everybody complains about a losing culture. If these guys are winning games, so be it. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because my whole spiel, as it were, as it pertains to culture, your culture changes when you have the players.
Right.
Like,
if you have better players, you win more, your culture's better. Unless you're the Heat. Then it's always good.
Then it's always Heat culture.
Well, and it's not necessarily also a great thing for the culture when you know that you have a lame duck coach that will not be here next year.
Yes and no. I don't. Again, I don't really subscribe to the bad culture stuff. In general,
just saying,
no. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I'm just saying, for me, and this is the point that I'll make with this. The Spurs, one of the best franchises in modern NBA history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, ever since they had David Robinson move forward, they've been phenomenal.
Yeah, losing doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad culture.
But that's my point. Like, before they got Wemby, they were bad. For 5 years, they were a very bad team. They were not good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Does that mean that the culture's bad? No. I also don't think it means the culture's good. Good culture doesn't mean, like...
It also means that they have a Greg Popovich there that has been there for 30 years with a proven track record and has built the hell out of a culture there for decades.
But
with multiple championships.
To my point, Mitch Johnson, who has been there for Greg Popovich since he had a stroke, are the Spurs playing very good? Yeah, they are. They're a near play-in team in year 2 of Victor Wembanyama on a roster that doesn't make a ton of sense because Victor Wembanyama's greatness is so high.
Well, he's a moon star, like really Monstar, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's
literally.
I like
that's
Moonstar.
what he is.
That's good too. He can wrap his arms around a moon. But my point being is that no matter what the culture is, how great it is in the Spurs, or how bad it is in like the Pistons, the Pistons didn't get drastically better because of JV Bickerstaff, the coach that the Cleveland Cavaliers kicked to the curb. They got better because they got better players, and Cade took another step forward.
Right.
And that's the thing with this organization right now is like, until they get those guys, I'm personally not worried about the culture. And that's just something that I believe in. Now, can it get really bad and toxic and becomes a real problem? Yes. Like there's levels to how bad a culture can be, but I'm not really worried about a bad or good culture right now.
I think right now the thing that I've always harped on is I want to see the growth in Scoot and Shaden. And I think that it's fair that a lot of the fan base is very confused as to why it felt like when you saw the growth from them, they then got moved to the bench. And I think that that's a fair question to ask of like, it feels like, hey, they're making strides. Could it be against who they're playing? Yes, 100%. It could be, it was set up, whatever the other team was doing defensively makes it easier for Scoot to get shots up or Shaden, whoever. But I do feel like right now there's just so many questions, and frankly, Blazer fans also are not handling tanking very well and understanding, hey, you're going to suck. You're going to have moments of good. You're going to have moments of really, really bad. And you just want to hope that you, year after year, get more moments of good as opposed to really, really bad. But even at the end of the day, if best case scenario, right, you get that 5th spot, right? You get that 5th best odds or whatever. There's still no guarantee that you get one of these top players.
No.
So even if you are horrific to the Detroit Pistons case, and the Detroit Pistons are the key of this.
And they fell back multiple times.
Right. So I think I'm kind of okay with the Blazers actually winning games if the growth of Shaden and Scoot continue in this way.
And
Klingon, of course.
And Denny. Like, and that's the thing is like Denny's been their best player this year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was phenomenal last night.
And so so then you have to include him as well. So like
he just turned, for those everybody who forgets that Denny is part of the young core, Denny turned 24 2 weeks ago.
Right. So you have this crew of you have a crew of 5 guys that you want to continue to see growth. Is it wrong of me to kind of think I'm okay with more wins?
I think it's not wrong of you.
Yes.
And for Jeff it is, because he's wholly on the
right.
The full sell.
And if you could guarantee Flag or Bailey, I'm with you.
which
Which you can.
10 years
but if
ago
you could,
you basically could with
Right.
the way those odds were.
right.
But even not even I'm raising my eyebrow at this now of like, are they probably winning a little too much? I think they are. It's more of, it has less to do with them and more about a couple other teams starting to pull the plug a bit sooner. And it's like, okay, you need to make a decision here relatively quick, which, to kind of put a little knot on this, is that the trade deadline is 10 days away. Post trade deadline, I think you're going to see some guys shut down. Now, does that mean I think, if Ant, Jeremy, DA, Rob, Batiste, anybody else who's on the roster now that is here post trade deadline is going to get shut down the day after the trade deadline? No.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll still see them playing a couple more games, which is why you probably need to start making some tactical decisions, as it were, wink, wink, nod, nod, if you're going to try to put yourself in that mix. What we don't know is if the winning is being encouraged by the front office, by coaching, or by ownership.
Or all three.
Or some semblance of all or none. And that's the thing is like, and you just kind of have to wonder where the alignment actually sits right now. Because the number that I've said over and over again is 22. 22 wins. You start winning more than that, that's when it starts getting dicey. And that's when you can push your way out.
And
again,
we are pretty close.
And the one thing in the back of my head that just keeps kind of going, the reminder is, post-trade deadline, this team has been god awful the last 3 years. It has been the worst, the second worst, and the worst team in the NBA. They have won 13 games over the last 3 trade deadlines.
That's incredible,
Yeah.
actually. That's so good. It's the best bad you can be.
Yeah. So that they know how to do that. I mean, this is a team that played John Butler Jr. or John Butler III as a point guard in Game 82 against the San Antonio San Antonio Spurs, which hilariously, the Spurs,
Brought to you by Stridex.
yeah, the Spurs winning that game may have been the thing that got them Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, that made Jeff sick.
God, I hate you guys.
Yeah. See, this is why ethical tanking. This is kind of this is the counter argument of like, well, if you just play the games and let the basketball gods decide, and don't throw John Butler III out there, or John Butler Jr. God, I can't remember which one. It's one or the other. Shout out John. He's a really nice guy. But it just puts you in these positions where you're like, don't want to have to make this decision.
That's okay. I'll take the 0 teacher.
There you go. 100%. All right. So that's where the Blazers sit right now. Again, 10 days until the trade deadline. 6-game homestand. The Blazers play the Kings February 6th. Like I said, you should expect a press conference, I think, post-trade deadline closing at noon.
Because, yeah, that'll be
that
before
game.
tip that
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
So
yeah, look for a roster of about, 6 to 7 guys? Maybe some Rip City remix call-ups?
All the youngins.
well, I don't think you're going to, like I said, I don't think you're going to see it immediately. I think you're going to see it very quickly with some guys, but I don't think you're going to see post-trade deadline. Okay, ding, 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 ding.
I just meant in terms of, some fill-ins for that evening because
they
you could
wanna
be
try and
fairly well
trade.
short-staffed
I
on the evening of the deadline.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
Well, it damn well better be.
I don't think so. Looking around the NBA right now, I don't think there's going to be a lot of moves, but we'll see.